The night felt peaceful. Warm lamps glowing softly. Rain tapping lightly against the windows. A movie playing low on the TV, one of those old comfort films I'd watched 100 times. I sat curled up on the couch in my favorite sweater, a mug of chamomile tea warming my hands. For once, life felt quiet. Safe. Caleb walked in with another mug, black coffee for himself, and sat beside me. No tension. No argument. Just a simple evening. If only it had stayed that way. Halfway through the movie, he muted the TV. Just muted it. No warning. No explanation. I turned toward him, confused. Caleb? What are you doing? He didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his leather briefcase and pulled out a thick stack of papers. My stomach tightened, not from fear, but from the way his face changed. Cold. Flat. Smug. Like a storm cloud hiding behind calm skies. He placed the papers on the coffee table between us. Grace, he said softly, we need to take care of something. Ouch. Nothing good in a marriage ever starts with that tone. What is it? I asked slowly. He tapped the papers. Just signatures. Nothing major. Signatures for what? He smiled, the kind of smile men give when they think they've outsmarted you. For that land your grandmother left you. My breath caught. The land in Wyatt Valley? Yes, he said, too casually. It's worthless, Grace. Just dirt and weeds. We can't afford to keep throwing money at taxes for no reason. I blinked. We aren't throwing money at anything. The taxes are tiny. And I'm not selling Grandma May's land. Caleb leaned back, crossing his arms. You don't have a choice this time. The words dropped between us like a stone. What do you mean? I whispered. He slid the documents closer to me. You're signing the transfer tonight. My throat tightened. No. Caleb, that land is all I have left of my grandmother. It's worthless, he snapped. Stop being dramatic. There was the real Caleb. The one who didn't respect memories or emotions or a legacy. Just money. Just control. I'm not signing away my inheritance, I said firmly. He leaned forward, voice icy. Grace, if you don't sign these papers, you can get out of this house. Tonight. The peaceful evening shattered. My tea went cold in my hands. The movie paused on a quiet frame. The rain outside suddenly felt louder. He pushed a pen into my palm. Sign, he repeated. Or get out. I stared at the pen, then at the papers, then at the man I used to trust with my whole heart. And with a slow, shaking breath, I signed every page. Silent. Calm. Done. Caleb smirked, as if he'd won something priceless. He gathered the papers, closed his briefcase, and said, Good girl. That one stung. I stood up, walked to the kitchen counter, placed the keys to our home right there in plain sight. Then I walked out of that house without looking back. But when I woke up the next morning, my phone lit up with a message that made my blood run cold. Grace, call me now. Caleb made a massive mistake. His lawyer is screaming at him. My phone buzzed again. And again. And again. 3 missed calls from the same number. Mr. Harlan Pierce. Caleb's high-profile attorney. The one he bragged about at every family dinner. Why would he call me? My hands trembled as I answered. Hello. A sharp breath crackled through the speaker. Grace Whitmore. His voice was urgent, almost frantic. Yes, this is Grace. This is Harlan Pierce. I need you to listen to me very carefully. Ouch. Nothing good ever starts that way. Is everything okay? I whispered. No. Your husband is currently in my office. He paused, as if choosing words he didn't want to say. Having a meltdown. I blinked. Caleb? A meltdown? Why? Pierce exhaled sharply, papers shuffling in the background. Because of what you signed last night. My heart thumped. What about it? There was a long silence. Too long. Then Pierce said, voice low. Grace, you need to understand something very important. That land you just transferred isn't worthless. My pulse stumbled. But Caleb said, I don't care what Caleb said. His voice cut through mine like steel. That land is sitting on top of an approved development zone. I froze. What? I whispered. Pierce continued quickly, tension thick in his tone. Wyatt Valley has been under environmental review for years. The moment it cleared last week, the entire ridge became prime commercial property. Wow. My breath caught. I felt my knees weaken. I didn't know, I whispered. No one did. Not even Caleb. Only the city board and a few attorneys were aware. And now, because of how he drafted that document, you didn't just give him the land. My heart pounded. What did I give him? Pierce inhaled like a man about to drop a bomb. You gave him nothing. A pause. You gave yourself everything. I stared at the wall, stunned silent. I don't understand, Pierce explained, voice rushing with urgency. Caleb filed the transfer as a sole owner release, assuming he'd become the sole recipient. Another pause. But because the original deed listed May Delaney's inheritance clause. My breath hitched. The moment you signed away your rights, the clause triggered automatic reassignment to the primary blood heir. I blinked. Primary blood heir? But Caleb was my husband. No, Pierce said firmly. The clause doesn't pass through marriage. A slow exhale. It goes to the next Delaney in line. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. Meaning? Who owns it now? Pierce spoke each word with stunned weight. You do. You own the ridge. Not Caleb. I almost dropped the phone. I own it. Yes, Pierce said. And not just the ridge, the entire development zone resting on it. My voice trembled. Caleb doesn't know? Pierce whispered. He knows now. And he's losing his mind. A chill spread through me. What does he want? Pierce cleared his throat. That's why I called. He's on his way to find you right now. My stomach tightened. Why? I whispered. Pierce didn't soften the truth. Because he thinks he can force you to sign it back. The line went silent for a moment before he added, Grace, whatever you do not open your door for him. I ended the call with Pierce, but my hand didn't move away from the phone. It stayed there frozen, like my fingers didn't trust reality. I own the ridge? The entire ridge? The land Caleb thought was worthless? My grandmother's land, the land I almost gave away. And Caleb was coming. I swallowed hard and looked around the tiny guest room I'd rented for the night. Thin walls, a small lamp, a single suitcase on the floor. I'd barely slept, barely breathed. Ouch. Now I had even less time to think. My phone buzzed again. A text from Pierce. Lock your door. Do not talk to him. I'm driving to you now. I typed back fast. Is he dangerous? Pierce responded instantly. Desperate men are the most dangerous. Stay hidden. My stomach twisted in a way that felt all too real. I paced the room, trying to calm my breathing. No, not now. Breathe, Grace. Breathe. Then, bam. A hard knock rattled the door, loud enough to make my knees buckle. My heart jumped. No. No. Not yet. Not this fast. Grace. Caleb's voice tore through the thin wood. I covered my mouth. Grace, open this door right now. He sounded nothing like the man from last night. No arrogance. No smugness. Just panic wrapped in anger. I stepped back until my legs hit the bed. Grace, I know you're in there, he shouted, banging harder. You think you can just walk away? After what you did? What I did? My breath shook as I whispered to myself. He's losing control. The doorknob jiggled violently. Open it. We need to talk. That voice. It wasn't pleading. It wasn't apologizing. It was demanding. Terrifying. I stayed silent. Still. Hidden. Minutes passed like hours. Caleb's banging grew frantic, then stopped completely. For a moment, silence. Too much silence. Then a new voice shouted from the hallway. Sir, step away from the door. The motel manager. I heard shuffling. Caleb's voice lowered, angry. Mind your business. This is my wife. She's a guest here, the manager replied firmly. You don't shout at guests here. Caleb hissed. She stole something from me. I clenched my fists. Stole? He really believed that. Or needed others to believe it. The manager didn't back down. Sir, leave now or I'm calling the police. A long, furious pause. Then Caleb's voice. A whisper that slid under the door like smoke. Grace, this isn't over. His footsteps retreated down the hall. Slow. Purposeful. I collapsed onto the bed, shaking so hard my teeth clicked. Tears burned my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. Not yet. My grandmother didn't raise me to break this easily. My phone buzzed again. Pierce. I'm almost there. But Grace, there's something else you need to know. Something about your grandmother's land. I blinked, heart pounding again. What about it? I typed. His reply came like a blade wrapped in words. Your grandmother knew this day would come. And she left you something Caleb can't touch. I froze. Left me what? My hands trembled as I stared at Pierce's message. Your grandmother knew this day would come. How? How could she possibly know? I typed fast. What did she leave me? For a moment, there was no response. No typing bubbles. Nothing. Just the hum of the cheap motel heater and the distant sound of cars on the highway. The silence felt intentional. Heavy. Then, my phone buzzed. Pierce. Grace, your grandmother's land isn't just land. My heart thudded. Me. What do you mean? Pierce. It contains a secondary deed. A private one. It was never recorded publicly. A secondary deed? Ouch. My pulse spiked. Another message came through immediately. Pierce. She left you sole rights to the mineral line beneath the ridge. I sat up straight. Mineral line? What mineral line? I whispered into the empty room. My phone vibrated again. Pierce. Grace. The land runs over a dormant mineral deposit. Small, but valuable. I blinked hard. That's impossible, I murmured. Grandma barely had money for groceries at the end. How would she know about minerals? Pierce called instead of texting. I answered instantly. Grace, he said urgently. May Delaney sat on the city's environmental board for 12 years before she retired. She knew every hill, every trench, every underground map of Wyatt Valley. My throat tightened. She never mentioned that. That was the point, Pierce said. She kept it quiet so no one could pressure her. Or you. I swallowed hard. So, what does this mean now? Pierce inhaled deeply. It means Caleb didn't just lose land, Grace. He lost a resource. A potential gold mine. And he doesn't even know it. Wow. A shiver ran down my arms. But if he finds out, he won't, Pierce cut in. Not unless someone tells him or shows him the private deed. I froze. Someone could tell him. Someone like Vanessa, I whispered. Caleb's sister. Sharp tongue. Sharp mind. Sharp greed. Pierce didn't deny it. I wouldn't trust her, he said. She benefits if Caleb benefits. If he rises, she rises. If he falls, she'll help push. I rubbed my forehead. This is too much. No, Pierce said gently. It's finally fair. You didn't even know what you owned. Now you do. Before I could respond, headlights swept across the motel window. A car pulled into the parking lot. Slow. Too slow. Pierce spoke again, voice urgent. Grace? Are you still inside your room? Yes. Good. Listen very carefully. Caleb might still be circling the area. He's furious. Desperate. Reckless. I stood up, heart racing. So what do I do? Stay hidden. I'm almost there. I hesitated, glanced at the window again. A shadow moved across the lot. Someone tall, confident, not Pierce's build. Pierce, I whispered. Someone's outside. Don't move, he said. Describe him. I swallowed hard. He's wearing a dark coat, pacing, looking at the room numbers. Pierce cursed under his breath. That's not me. My pulse exploded. Then who is it? I whispered. Pierce's answer was a low, chilling warning. Grace, whoever that is. They know exactly where you are. I pressed one hand against the wall to steady myself. The shadow outside the motel window wasn't moving toward my door, but pacing. Slowly. Deliberately. Counting room numbers one by one. That wasn't random wandering. That was someone hunting. Grace, Pierce said through the phone. Listen carefully. Does he look familiar? I swallowed. He's tall, maybe mid-40s, dark coat, hands in his pockets. He keeps glancing at the cars. Checking plates. Pierce's breath hissed. That's not Caleb. Caleb's too impulsive to pace. He would have kicked the door in. Ouch. True. The stranger paused directly beneath my window. I held my breath. He looked up. Not at the sky. Not at the building. At my window. My knees almost buckled. Pierce. He's staring right at me. Back away from the window. Pierce ordered sharply. Right now. I dropped to the side, pressing against the wall. My voice shook. Who is he? If it's not Caleb. Grace, Pierce said, voice tight. Caleb isn't the only person who had interest in that land. What do you mean? He hesitated, which made the fear worse. May's land was approached multiple times by developers before she passed, he said. She rejected every offer. A chill crawled across my skin. So this guy could be from one of those companies? Yes, Pierce said. Or worse. Worse. Worse than Caleb? Worse than Vanessa? Worse than the truth I'd just uncovered? My pulse throbbed painfully. The stranger stepped closer to my door. Not rushing. Not sneaking. Confident. Certain. Like he had business here. I whispered into the phone. Pierce, someone else knew about Grandma's land value? Pierce exhaled. Yes, and if they know you triggered the clause, they'll want control. My breathing stuttered. So, what do I do if he knocks? Don't answer, Pierce snapped. As if the stranger heard him, a soft, deliberate knock echoed through the room. Not loud. Not aggressive. Worse. Gentle. Like he wanted me to feel safe opening the door. That was the kind of knock that made every instinct scream no. Then, a calm male voice. Ms. Whitmore? I'd like to speak with you about Wyatt Valley. I covered my mouth to hold in my gasp. He knew my name. He knew the land. He knew where to find me. Ouch. This was bad. Very bad. Pierce's voice was almost a growl on the other end of the line. Grace, that's not a coincidence. That's targeted. The knock came again, 2 slow taps. Ms. Whitmore, I know you can hear me. A pause. You and I have business to discuss. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear myself breathe. Pierce spoke quickly. Grace, listen to me. He is not law enforcement. He is not a lawyer from my office. He is not here to help. Another pause. Then his voice hardened. He's here because someone told him you now control the ridge. My throat tightened. What do I do? A beat of silence. Then Pierce said, Get ready to move. Now, I'm entering the parking lot. I peeked toward the curtain again. The stranger stepped back, looked left, looked right, like he sensed movement. My phone buzzed in my hand, a new message from Pierce. Grace, he's not alone. My breath hitched as the stranger stepped away from my door. Not leaving, not backing off, just repositioning, watching, listening. That kind of patience meant one thing. He wasn't afraid of being noticed. My phone buzzed with Pierce's new message. Grace, he's not alone. Ouch. My chest tightened. I forced myself to whisper. Pierce, how many? He answered with a brittle edge in his voice. At least 2 more. One near the stairwell. One by the vending machines. They're trying to triangulate your location. My stomach dropped. Triangulate. That was not a word used for friendly visitors. Grace, Pierce continued urgently. These are not amateurs. They're coordinated. They knew which room you were in before I even pulled into the lot. I crouched beside the bed, heart pounding so loudly it drowned out everything else. How would they know where I'm staying? I whispered. Pierce inhaled sharply, a sound full of dread. Someone told them. I swallowed hard. Caleb. No, Pierce said immediately. Caleb's angry, not strategic. He wouldn't hire a team like this. He'd come charging in alone. Then who? I breathed. Pierce's answer was a low, tense whisper. Vanessa. My pulse slammed. Of course. Of course it was her. Greed in high heels, with a silver tongue and no conscience. She wants the ridge, Pierce said. If Caleb gets it, she gets her cut. If you get it, she gets nothing. So she's removing the obstacle. Me, I was the obstacle. Ouch! A soft sound jerked me back to reality. A faint tap on the window. Not loud. Not aggressive. Just enough to check if I'd panic. A shadow passed across the curtain. Then the stranger's voice drifted in again. Calm. Controlled. Ms. Whitmore, you don't have to be afraid. We just need a conversation. That tone was a lie wrapped in velvet. My voice shook as I whispered to Pierce. What happens if they force the door? Then we're out of options, he said. Grace, I'm parking. When I tell you to move, you move. I peeked through the tiniest crack in the curtain. 2 more men now. One at each end of the walkway. All 3 wearing dark coats. All 3 scanning the row of rooms. They weren't here to talk. They were here to collect me. My hands trembled. Pierce, they'll see me if I leave my room. Not if you follow my directions exactly, he cut in. Stay low. Move along the back side of the building. Do not go toward the lobby. I held my breath. What if they see me? Pierce hesitated, then said something that made my heart seize. If they see you, they'll corner you. You can't let that happen. Ouch! Then, his voice snapped sharp. Grace, now. Move. I grabbed my bag, swung the door open, staying low, and slipped into the cold night air. Footsteps echoed behind me. Deep. Heavy. Fast. They'd seen movement. My pulse roared in my ears. I pressed myself against the back wall of the motel, heart slamming. Pierce's voice burst through the phone. Grace, run. He's coming around the corner. Cold night air slapped against my face the second I stepped outside. The pavement was wet. The sky was dark. The only sounds were crickets and footsteps. Fast ones. Heavy ones. Grace, go. Pierce yelled through the phone. I sprinted along the backside of the motel, staying low, my bag banging against my hip. My breath came out in sharp bursts, each one tighter than the last. Behind me, a scrape. A thud. Then the unmistakable rhythm of someone running, faster than me. Pierce, he's right behind me. I gasped. I see him, Pierce said. I'm pulling around to the back exit. Keep moving. I darted past dumpsters, old wood pallets, and a flickering backlight that barely lit the alley. A deep voice echoed from behind me. Ms. Whitmore, stop running. Ouch! That voice sent pure ice down my spine. No, I whispered to myself. Not happening. Another set of footsteps joined the chase, meaning a second man had looped around. 2 of them. They were coordinating. Pierce, there's 2. I cried. I know. Grace, listen, there's a chain link fence behind the building. If you get there first, you can slip through the gap at the bottom. I rounded the corner just as the men turned theirs. My heart nearly cracked my ribs. I pushed harder. Faster. My lungs screamed, but so did my survival instincts. The fence appeared ahead, tall, rusty, stretching across the property line. And yes, a small gap at the bottom. I dropped to my knees and slid forward, scraping my palms on the gravel. It hurt. It burned. But I didn't stop. The men shouted behind me. She's going under, grab her. My heart nearly exploded. I squeezed through the gap, ripping my sweater, scraping my hip, and dragging my bag behind me. On the other side, I stumbled up, dizzy, shaking, and sprinted into the open field behind the motel. Street lights were far. Shadows everywhere. And my hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped my phone. Grace, do you see my headlights? Pierce yelled. No, I just see darkness. I'm coming toward the back of the fence. Keep running straight. I ran past old cars, a broken picnic bench, and patches of wet grass that slapped my legs. Then, a flashlight beam swept across the field behind me. They got through. Both of them. One of the men shouted, "Stop! You don't know what you're doing." "I know exactly what I'm doing," I yelled back, surprising myself with the strength in my voice. But the truth? I was terrified. Pierce's car screeched into the field from the far side. "Grace, here," he shouted, waving his arm out the driver's window. I sprinted toward the car, like my life depended on it. Because it did. Just as I reached the door handle, a large hand grabbed the back of my sweater. "Ouch!" I screamed, raw, instinctual, and twisted hard, ripping free. "Get in," Pierce shouted. I yanked the door open and threw myself inside. Pierce hit the gas before I even shut the door. As we sped away, one of the men slapped the back of the trunk, inches too late. My entire body shook. Pierce breathed out. "Grace, that was way too close." I whispered. "Pierce, who were those men?" He didn't answer immediately. Then he said something that chilled me to the bone. Not who, what. The car roared across the empty field, bouncing over uneven dirt. I clutched the door handle with one hand, my chest heaving, adrenaline still pounding inside my ribs. Pierce drove like a man who'd done this before. Fast, sharp turns, headlights off. That alone was terrifying. I finally managed to gasp. "Pierce, what do you mean, what?" "Not who." He didn't answer right away. His jaw clenched. His fingers tightened around the steering wheel. "Pierce," I whispered, "please, tell me." He let out a long breath. "Those men were not operating for Caleb," he said quietly. "And they weren't random hired muscle." "Then who sent them?" I asked. His voice dropped to a low, grim tone. "They're from Steel Development." Ouch! My pulse stumbled. "Steel? As in Ronan Steel?" I whispered. "The developer?" Pierce nodded once. "Ronan Steel has been trying to get that ridge for years. Your grandmother rejected every offer. Steel assumed he'd get it after she passed." I blinked hard. "But the land went to me." "Exactly," Pierce said. "And now that the Environmental Board approved the development zone, that ridge is worth tens of millions." Millions? My breath caught. My grandmother's land, worth millions. And Caleb had tried to force me to give it away for nothing. Then a thought hit me so hard I nearly felt sick. "Pierce, how did Steele's men know I triggered the inheritance clause?" Pierce's jaw flexed. "They shouldn't know," he said. "Only Caleb, me, and the city board know so far." My heart thudded painfully. "So someone told them?" "Yes," I swallowed. "Vanessa?" Pierce nodded grimly. "Caleb's sister has been tying herself to Steele's company for months. Networking. Sucking up to investors. Trying to position herself for a payout if Caleb ever closed a deal." A cold wave washed over me. "So Vanessa told them." I signed the papers. "And more," Pierce said. "She likely told them where you were staying." I shook my head, disbelief crashing into fear. She would really help strangers kidnap me? Over land? Pierce shot me a look. "Land? Grace, this isn't about land anymore. This is about leverage, power, and profit. You hold the key to a project worth more than Caleb will see in his life." My throat tightened. "And those men would have what? Forced me to sign something?" Pierce's silence was the answer. Ouch! My grandmother's land, the ridge she protected for decades, almost taken from me by strangers in the night. Pierce slowed the car, turning onto a hidden private road through thick trees. I gripped the seat. "Where are we going?" I whispered. "To somewhere safe," he said. "Somewhere Steele won't find you." A flicker of light appeared between the trees. A small cabin, old but sturdy. My pulse quickened. "Pierce, whose cabin is that?" He parked the car and cut the engine. Then he looked at me with an expression I'd never seen on him before, something between dread and truth. "Grace," he said quietly, This cabin belonged to your grandmother. I stared at it, the past suddenly sitting right in front of me. Pierce stepped out first, scanning the trees. When he opened my door, he said something that made my breath hitch. You're not just inheriting her land, Grace. You're inheriting her war. The cabin stood in the middle of the clearing like a memory frozen in wood. Old shingles. Faded blue door. A porch light that flickered like it hadn't seen electricity in years. My breath tightened. I'd never seen this place before. Not once. Not even in passing. Pierce, I whispered, stepping toward it slowly. Why didn't my grandmother ever tell me about this cabin? He grabbed my arm gently, not to stop me, but to ground me. She couldn't, he said quietly. May Delaney had enemies. Ouch. Enemies? My sweet, gentle grandmother? The woman who spent her days gardening and telling me stories about the valley? I shook my head. That's impossible. No, Grace, Pierce said firmly. It isn't. He walked ahead and pushed open the squeaky door. Warm air drifted out, dusty, but familiar somehow. The cabin smelled like old pine, dried books, and the faintest scent of May's favorite lavender oil. My chest tightened painfully. I stepped inside, scanning the small space. A wooden table, a cast-iron stove, a rocking chair, a shelf full of old maps and binders. But then, a framed picture on the wall. Me, at 10 years old, laughing beside Grandma May. My throat nearly closed. Pierce, I whispered. How long has this been here? A long time, he said softly. May prepared this place for you. For me? But why hide it? Pierce walked to the bookshelf and pulled down an old binder labeled Wyatt Valley, restricted. He placed it on the table. This, he said, is the reason. I slowly opened the binder. Inside were maps. Not the kind you buy at a store. These were survey maps, property lines, mineral deposits, environmental notes, handmade markings in Granny May's handwriting, and circled in red ink, the ridge. Her land. My land. For years, Pierce said, developers from Steele's company tried to buy the ridge from May. They wanted to dig out the deposits and sell them off. I flipped through the pages, hands shaking. Why didn't Grandma sell? Pierce smiled faintly. Because May didn't trust them. She fought them. She protected the valley. My chest ached. And she wanted me to protect it? I whispered. No, Pierce said. I looked up sharply. What do you mean no? He exhaled heavily. She didn't want you to protect it. She wanted you to own it. My pulse jumped. Own the mineral deposit? Pierce nodded. And everything tied to it. A cold realization hit me. She knew this development battle was coming. Yes, he said. She knew Caleb would eventually try to take what wasn't his. She knew Steele would try again, if the zone ever reopened. And she knew you'd be dragged into this whether you wanted it or not. I felt the room tilt. So she'd prepared this cabin for me. For this moment. Pierce nodded slowly. May left instructions. Documents. Evidence. Everything you'd need to fight the people coming after you. Ouch! My eyes stung. Tears of fear, shock, grief, all tangled together. I touched the old rocking chair. She kept all of this to protect me. Pierce stepped closer, lowering his voice. And Grace, the most important part of her plan, is in this cabin. I blinked. What part? He opened the second drawer of the table and pulled out a sealed envelope. My name written in Grandma May's handwriting. Pierce placed it gently in my hands. This, he said, is the letter May wrote for the day everything finally caught up to you. My fingers shook as I held the envelope. It felt warm, like the paper remembered her touch. Her handwriting looping, soft, familiar, almost alive. My breath trembled. I hadn't seen Grandma May's handwriting since the funeral. Seeing it now made something deep in my chest ache. Pierce stood quietly, giving me space, something Caleb never understood. I slid my thumb under the seal and opened it carefully. Inside was a folded letter. Just one page. I unfolded it slowly and saw her words. My sweet Grace. Ouch! My eyes instantly stung. Pierce took a respectful step back. I swallowed hard and continued reading. If you are holding this letter, then the valley has changed hands again. And that means the world I fought to protect has finally reached you. I blinked through the blur of tears. Valley changing hands, I whispered. She knew someone would come after it. Pierce nodded solemnly, but stayed silent. I kept reading. Grace, the ridge was never worthless. It was never empty. It holds the last untouched piece of our family's legacy and its future. My breath hitched. Legacy, future. Two words may never used lightly. You inherited my heart, child, and you inherited my battle. The men who want the land will look kind. They will speak soft. They will promise everything. Do not trust any of them. My hands trembled harder, especially not the ones who come smiling first. My pulse spiked. Caleb had smiled. Steele's men had knocked gently. May knew their type. I kept reading. If the day ever comes when you must choose between fear and the truth, choose the truth, Grace. The valley belongs to us, not because of land or minerals, but because of what it protects. Protects. I looked at Pierce sharply. What does she mean, what it protects? He exhaled slowly. That's what we're going to figure out. I returned to the letter. The valley holds more than they know, more than they deserve to know. And if they come for you, do not run alone. My throat tightened. Find Harlan Pierce. He will protect you the way I could not. I froze. Pierce, she wrote your name. He nodded lightly. She trusted me. And she expected this. Expected this. Expected all of this. I read the last lines. Grace, whatever they threaten, whatever they take, whatever they try to make you sign, remember this. You are stronger than any contract. Stronger than any man. Stronger than fear itself. My tears finally fell. Fight for the valley. Fight for yourself. And don't look back. The letter ended with her name. May, just May. I folded it slowly, pressing it to my chest for one long, trembling breath. Grace, Pierce said softly. There's more. I lifted my head. What more? He nodded toward the bookshelf. May didn't just leave you a letter. She left you a map. A very old one. My heart jumped. A map to what? Pierce's voice lowered. To the part of the ridge worth killing for. I wiped my eyes with the back of my hand and stared at Pierce. A map. I whispered. To what? He didn't answer. Not yet. Instead, he walked to the bookshelf and brushed his fingers along the dusty spines. Old binders, worn atlases, faded leather notebooks. He pulled out a thin, cracked folder. My grandmother's handwriting covered the front. Delaney Ridge, do not ignore. That handwriting again. My chest tightened all over. Pierce opened the folder on the table. Inside was a folded parchment-like map, yellowed, brittle at the edges. I leaned in slowly. Grace, Pierce said quietly, this isn't a normal land map. This is a survey overlay. May created it herself. He unfolded the first layer. My breath caught. The map wasn't just land boundaries. It showed cross-sections of the ridge. Tunnels. Fault lines. Mineral pockets. Hidden crevices. And handwritten marks. Dozens of them. Pierce tapped one near the center. See this pocket? He said. That's a rare mineral cluster. And this, he pointed lower, is a natural fissure zone that connects deeper. I swallowed. So the land is valuable for minerals. Yes, he said. But that's not the real secret. Ouch! My heart thudded painfully. The real secret, Pierce continued, is in the next layer. He lifted the top map to reveal a second, thinner page beneath it. This one wasn't drawn with pencil or ink. It looked burned around the edges, as if May had scorched it deliberately. Pierce unfolded it carefully. At the very center was one marking, a circle. Drawn thick. Drawn deep. And beside it, two words. Door below. My skin prickled. Door. I whispered. To what? There's nothing under the ridge. Pierce's voice dropped lower. That's what everyone assumes. But the Delaney family didn't settle that valley randomly. History books talk about settlers, farmers, simple people. He looked at me, eyes serious. May knew something older was under that land. My heart pounded. What are you saying? He pointed at the circle on the map. I'm saying your grandmother spent decades guarding something buried beneath the ridge. Something she didn't trust the government with. Something she didn't trust developers with. Something she didn't even trust her own children with. My hands trembled. And she trusted me? Pierce nodded. That's why she left you this. I stared at the map, at the circle, at the words door below. What does Steele want? I whispered. Pierce's jaw tightened. Steele wants control of the entire ridge. And if he thinks there's anything of value beneath it, he'll stop at nothing. Ouch! My pulse raced. So Caleb and Vanessa and Steele, they're all fighting for this land because of a door no one understands? Pierce exhaled. They think it's about money, minerals, land rights. He looked me dead in the eye. Grace, they have no idea what May really left you. But someone must have hinted it exists. My breath hitched. Who would know? Pierce didn't blink. Someone close to May. Someone she once trusted. Someone who betrayed her long before they decided to betray you. I stepped back slowly. Pierce, who? He folded the maps carefully. Then he said, someone is working with Steele. Someone who knew May's secrets. Someone who knew where this cabin was. I froze, because only 2 people ever visited May weekly. Me, and one other. I stared at Pierce, my pulse thundering in my ears. Someone who visited May, I whispered. Someone who knew this cabin existed, who knew her secrets. Pierce nodded once, slowly. Grace, think carefully. Who was close enough to May to know about her maps? Her land fights? Her history with Steele? Only 2 people visited May regularly. Me, and, a chill rolled up my spine. No, I murmured. It can't be. Pierce watched me closely. Say it. I shook my head. She would never. Grace, he said gently. May trusted her once. But trust is easy to manipulate, and greed is louder than loyalty. Ouch. My chest tightened. My voice broke. My aunt, I whispered. Aunt Lydia. Pierce's silence was confirmation. Aunt Lydia. May's only daughter. Warm smile. Kind eyes. A woman who smelled like cinnamon and always brought peach pies to family dinners. Aunt Lydia who'd cried at May's funeral harder than anyone. Aunt Lydia who told me the land was nothing but mud. Aunt Lydia who always asked about my inheritance with too much interest. I pressed a hand to my mouth. No, she wouldn't work with Steele. Pierce sighed. Lydia needed money, Grace. A lot of it. Medical bills, debt, the house she's been trying to keep afloat. I swallowed hard. But she would have told me. Not if Steele offered her more than you ever could. Pierce's voice was quiet, uncomfortably honest. Lydia has been talking to Steele's people for months. My stomach twisted. Did she tell Steele about the ridge? Pierce nodded. She told Steele the land was yours. She told him you didn't know its value. She told him you were naive about contracts. Ouch, that one stung. And, Pierce added grimly, she told Steele where you usually stay when you leave Caleb. My heart dropped. The motel? I whispered. Yes, Pierce said. That motel. My chest tightened with betrayal, so sharp it almost hurt to breathe. How could she? I whispered. How could she put me in danger like that? Pierce didn't soften his tone. Grace, Lydia thought Steele just wanted you to sign a sale agreement. She didn't realize he'd send men to intimidate you. She didn't know he'd escalate. Escalate? I echoed. Pierce, this feels like they were planning to take me. Pierce looked at me, face dark. They were... My body went cold. They don't need you dead, Pierce continued. They need you compliant. They need you scared enough to sign. I'm not signing anything, I snapped, voice trembling with anger. A faint smile tugged his mouth. That's why they're panicking. He folded May's maps and slid them into a leather case. You see now, Grace? You're not just a widow with land. You're the gatekeeper to something billion-dollar men want. I sat down slowly, the cabin floor creaking. Pierce, what happens when Steele realizes I escaped? He'll send more men, Pierce said. And next time, they won't knock. My breath hitched. Then what do we do? Pierce walked toward the back wall and placed a hand on an old wooden panel. We follow May's instructions, he said. What instructions? He pushed the panel, and it slid open. Behind it was a hidden stairway descending underground. My pulse exploded. Pierce, what is that? He met my eyes. May knew this day would come. She built a way down to the valley's true secret. For a long second, I just stared at the hidden doorway. A stairway. Behind a wall. Inside a cabin no one knew existed except May, Pierce, and apparently whoever betrayed her. A tremor crawled up my spine. Pierce, I whispered. How long has this been here? Decades, he said softly. May built it with the help of 2 old surveyors. She sealed it after your mother left town. She never wanted anyone stumbling into it. He stepped aside so I could look down. The stairway descended steeply, lit by old lantern-style bulbs wired along the wall. Dust floated in the air like glitter. It looked ancient, secretive, and terrifying. I swallowed. What's down there? Pierce exhaled through his nose, slow, controlled. Answers. Ouch! That wasn't comforting. But before I could respond, he handed me something unexpected. A flashlight. Heavy. Industrial grade. Grace, he said, once we go down there, your life changes permanently. This is the line May kept hidden all her life. Once you cross it, Steele isn't the only one you'll have to face. I gripped the flashlight tighter. Pierce, are you sure this is safe? No, he said bluntly. But staying above ground is worse. I took a shaky breath. Okay, let's go. He nodded, stepped onto the first stair, and motioned for me to follow. I descended carefully, my hand gripping the rail. The wooden steps creaked under our weight. The air grew cooler, heavier, filled with the faint scent of earth and iron. After a few turns, the stairway opened into a wide underground corridor, carved rock reinforced with wooden beams. Lantern bulbs lined the walls, some flickering weakly. My voice came out as a whisper. May really built all this? Pierce ran his hand along the wall. She had help. Old miners. Surveyors. Men who respected her. People who hated what Steele was trying to do to the valley. I blinked. Why didn't she tell me? He stopped, looked back at me. Because she didn't want you dragged into a war before you were ready. She hoped the ridge would be worthless forever. That no one would ever reopen the development zone. Ouch! And now here I was right in the middle of it. We walked deeper. The corridor narrowed, then opened into a small chamber carved into the stone. A table sat in the center. Maps. Old lanterns. A metal lockbox covered in dust. Pierce pointed at it. That's what we're here for. I stepped closer. What is it? May's final records. Her private files. Everything she documented about the valley. What she knew, what she found, and what she never wanted falling into the wrong hands. My heart pounded. I knelt down and brushed dust from the lockbox lid. There, etched faintly in the metal, were initials. M.D. May Delaney. I whispered. Pierce, do you have the key? He nodded. Yes. But then his eyes darkened. And that's what scares me. My breath hitched. Why? He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Because someone else has a duplicate. I froze. A chill crawled beneath my skin. Pierce, who else? He whispered. Whoever opened this chamber last. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Someone else had been here. Someone who knew about the cabin. Someone who knew about the hidden stairway. Someone who touched May's secrets before I ever knew they existed. A cold wave rolled through my chest. Pierce, I whispered. How can you tell the lockbox was opened? He crouched beside it and angled his flashlight. See this? He said softly, pointing at the metal latch. A tiny scratch. Barely visible, but unmistakable. That's from a duplicate key, he said. Not the original. My throat tightened. And the original? Who had that? Pierce looked up at me, a look that said everything, without words. May, he whispered. And Lydia. Ouch. My breath caught. Aunt Lydia. My own aunt. Someone I trusted. Someone who hugged me at holidays. Someone who cried at the funeral. She had been here. She had opened May's box. She had rifled through May's secrets. The betrayal hit sharper than fear. She was working with steel, I whispered, even before May died. Pierce nodded slowly. Yes, something changed with Lydia around that time. She got desperate, started cozying up to Steele, talking about investments, quick money, opportunities. He made air quotes with a bitter edge. I warned May, he added softly, but she refused to believe Lydia would betray her. My eyes stung. She trusted her daughter, I whispered. More than anyone. Pierce's voice dropped. And that trust got May hurt. I blinked. Hurt? What do you mean, hurt? Pierce looked away. That alone terrified me. Grace. May didn't die peacefully in her sleep like everyone said. My heart stopped. He kept going carefully. She fainted the day before. She hit her head. She told me she thought someone had been in her cabin, messing with her maps, her notes. My knees weakened. And she didn't trust Lydia anymore. The room tilted. That's why, Pierce continued, May called me the night before she passed. She said, Harlan, someone's coming for the ridge. Help Grace when the time comes. I pressed a hand to my mouth. She knew someone would steal from her and she couldn't stop it. Pierce nodded. That's why she hid the stairway. And why she locked everything down. And why she left this box for you. He slid the box toward me gently. Grace, whatever's inside here might be the reason Lydia teamed up with Steele. Ouch! The betrayal burned. I steadied my breathing and reached for the lid. The metal creaked softly, like it remembered being opened too recently. Inside were old receipts, handwritten notes, a deed copy, and a sealed envelope marked, If they force her hand. I swallowed hard, lifting the envelope. What does that mean? I whispered. Pierce's face darkened. It means May prepared a contingency plan in case you were ever threatened. My fingers trembled as I opened the envelope. Inside was a document with 3 words that made my blood run ice cold. Immediate ownership transfer. I looked at Pierce, voice shaking. What does this do? He took the paper, scanned it, and his eyes widened. Grace, this document gives you legal claim over every acre connected to the ridge. My heartbeat spiked. All of it, I whispered. Pierce nodded slowly. All of it. For a long moment, I just stared at Pierce. All of it. I whispered again, like my brain needed time to accept reality. The entire ridge? Pierce nodded, slow and heavy. Yes, every acre connected to May's original land grant. Her father's land. His father's land. The entire Delaney belt. My knees almost buckled. Pierce, that's miles of property. That's insane. He held the document carefully, as if it might break. This isn't just land, Grace. This is a legacy. A dynasty your grandmother protected with everything she had. Ouch! My chest tightened at the thought of May fighting alone for all these years. Pierce continued. Whoever controls this land controls the development zone. The mineral rights. The air rights. Everything. He met my eyes. And now, that person is you. My breath trembled. But Lydia? Pierce shook his head sharply. Lydia only knew about the mineral pocket. She had no idea May created a master transfer document. This paper is the nuclear button, Grace. And she doesn't know it exists. A shiver crawled across my arms. So, she thinks she still has leverage. Yes, he said. But she's blind. Steele's blind. Caleb's blind. I swallowed, whispering. And I'm the only one who can see the whole board. Pierce nodded. Exactly. Before I could take another breath, his phone buzzed. He glanced down and went pale. I stepped closer. Pierce, what is it?
He handed the phone to me.
A breaking news alert lit the screen. Local man Caleb Whitmore accuses wife of land fraud and theft. Files emergency complaint. My stomach dropped. What? He's accusing me? I choked. Pierce clenched his jaw. He's panicking. Caleb must have gone to the police. My hands shook. But I didn't steal anything. I didn't even know. He's lying, Pierce cut in firmly. He's trying to get ahead of whatever he thinks you have. Ouch! This was Caleb's favorite move. Attack first, think later. Pierce's phone buzzed again. He cursed under his breath. Steele just filed a petition with the city board demanding you be subpoenaed for questioning. I blinked hard. What does that mean? It means Steele wants you trapped, Pierce said. He wants you stuck in one place so he can corner you legally or physically. My pulse hammered painfully. They don't even know about this document, I whispered. So, why are they escalating this fast? Pierce exhaled slowly. Because they think you're still in the motel. They think you're scared and alone. They think they can intimidate you into signing anything they put in front of you. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. But they don't know where you are. They don't know what you have. And they don't know who's standing with you. I swallowed hard. So, what do we do now? I whispered. Pierce handed the master transfer document back to me. We go public. I froze. Public, he nodded. The only way to stop Caleb, Lydia, and Steele is to expose what they did before they bury you under lies. My breath trembled. But going public will make me a target. Pierce held my gaze. You already are. A chill ran through me. Tomorrow morning, he said, we're going to the city board office. And when we walk out, the entire valley will know the truth. My pulse kicked hard. Pierce, and if Steele shows up? He gave a tight, grim smile. Then this war finally gets a face. Morning crept into the cabin in thin strips of pale light. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Steele's men, the motel, Aunt Lydia's betrayal, Caleb pounding on my door, May's letter, the map, the sealed document that could end all of this. My brain felt wired and exhausted at the same time. Pierce was already up, pacing near the doorway, coffee in hand, eyes sharp and restless. Grace, he said gently, eat something before we head out. I can't, I whispered. My stomach's in knots. He gave a knowing nod. Ouch. Understatement of the century. He handed me a granola bar anyway. We're walking into a storm today. You need strength. I bit into it mechanically. After a long silence, I finally asked, Pierce, what happens if Caleb's already there? Or Steele? Or Lydia? He sighed. Then we do what May prepared you to do. And what's that? I murmured. Stand your ground. Easier said than done. We left the cabin through the back path, sticking to the tree line. Pierce had insisted on switching vehicles. Someone could have tracked his car. By the time we reached the city board office, the small parking lot was already filling up. Camera, vans, board officials, local reporters. What? My heart thudded hard. Pierce, why are there news vans here? He winced. Because Caleb made your business public. Ouch. Of course he did. We got out of the car slowly. Eyes turned. Whispers rippled. That's her, Grace Whitmore, Caleb's wife. Is she the one who? Pierce stepped closer, subtly shielding me from the staring crowd. Just breathe, he whispered. But then, a familiar voice cut through the noise like a knife. Well, look who finally crawled out of hiding. My whole body tensed. Vanessa? She strutted across the parking lot, wearing designer sunglasses, a smirk sharper than glass, and enough cruelty in her voice to choke a room. "You've caused quite the chaos, Gracie," she purred. "The police, the committee, reporters. Caleb's the mess." I swallowed hard. "Move, Vanessa." "Oh," she said, tilting her head. "No hello? No apology?" Pierce stepped in front of me. "Ms. Whitmore," he said coldly, "you are not part of these proceedings. Step aside." She scoffed. "Actually, I'm very much part of this. You see." But she didn't finish, because another voice, older, deeper, carrying authority, sliced through the tension. "That's enough, Vanessa." We all turned. And there he was, Ronan Steele himself. Tall, sharp suit. Eyes like polished stone. A man who looked at people the same way a butcher looks at cuts of meat. My breath caught. "Grace Whitmore," he said smoothly, "I've been looking forward to meeting you." Ouch! Everything in me stiffened. Pierce stepped closer to me, shoulders squared. Steele smiled faintly. "Shall we head inside? The board is eager to hear what you think belongs to you." My pulse hammered. This was it. The showdown May had been preparing me for my entire life, and I was walking straight into it. The moment we stepped into the city board building, every conversation in the lobby froze. Chairs stopped creaking. Pens stopped tapping. People turned. Their eyes weren't curious. They were waiting like everyone already knew this morning would explode. Pierce leaned toward me. "Stay close," he murmured. "Steele will try to get inside your head before we even sit down." Ouch, too late. Just breathing the same air as Ronan Steele felt like stepping into a lion's cage. Vanessa strutted in behind him, flipping her hair, whispering loud enough for everyone to hear. Poor Grace. She's about to embarrass herself in front of the entire committee. Pierce shot her a lethal glare. "Vanessa, one more word, and I'll have you removed for interference." She scoffed. "Try me." But Steele raised one hand, quiet, controlled. "Vanessa, sit." The way she obeyed. That told me everything. She wasn't a partner. She was a pawn. The boardroom doors opened, and an official gestured us inside. "Ms. Whitmore, Mr. Steele, Mr. Pierce, the committee is ready." My heart pounded as we walked into the large room. Long table, 12 board members, microphones, papers, a projector. This wasn't a meeting. This was a trial. We took our seats. Steele sat across from me, fingers steepled, eyes fixed on me like he was studying every breath. The chairwoman cleared her throat. "We're here to discuss the ownership and development rights of the Delaney Ridge. Mr. Steele has filed an urgent claim alleging that Ms. Grace Whitmore," Steele leaned forward smoothly, "is in wrongful possession of land intended for commercial development." I clenched my teeth. Ouch! Liar. He didn't even blink.
Pierce cut in sharply.
"Objection. Ms. Whitmore is the sole rightful heir, as confirmed by the deed on file." Steele smiled, slow, cold. Yes, the deed. The one her husband claims was manipulated." My blood boiled. Pierce slammed a document on the table. "Caleb Whitmore's accusations are false and proven and strategically timed. Ms. Whitmore signed a transfer drafted by him, not the other way around." Gasps fluttered across the room. Steele didn't flinch. "Even so," he said softly, "Ms. Whitmore lacks the expertise to manage land of such value. It would be irresponsible to allow her control." There it was, his real angle. "Mr. Steele," the chairwoman asked, "are you suggesting the ridge should be placed under your management?" Steele folded his hands. "For the safety of the valley, yes." Pierce stood. "Absolutely not." I swallowed hard. This was spiraling. Steele finally looked at me, really looked. His voice dropped into something dark and territorial. "Grace, be reasonable. This land is too big for you, too dangerous for you, too powerful for you." My jaw tightened. "Funny," I said quietly. "My grandmother didn't think so." His smile faded for half a second. a crack in the armor. Then, the chairwoman turned to me. Ms. Whitmore, do you have any evidence to support your claim to sole ownership? Pierce nodded at me. This was it. My heartbeat thundered. With shaking hands, I reached into my folder and pulled out Grandma May's master transfer document. Steele's eyes widened. The room gasped. Vanessa jumped to her feet. What is that? Pierce's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. The truth. The master transfer document lay on the table like a live grenade. Steele's eyes locked onto it. Sharp, calculating, furious. The first real crack in his perfect, polished calm. Good. Let him sweat. The chairwoman leaned forward. Mr. Pierce, what exactly are we looking at? Pierce slid the document toward her with deliberate slowness. This, he said clearly, is the original Delaney transfer. Drafted by May Delaney herself. Filed legally. Sealed privately. And binding. Steele's jaw twitched. That document is invalid, he hissed. Pierce didn't flinch. No, Mr. Steele. Your claim is invalid. Vanessa practically choked. You're lying. Grace doesn't have anything like that. My mother. Ouch. There it was. Her slip. The chairwoman snapped her head toward Vanessa. Your mother? You're related to the opposing claimant. Vanessa froze. Too late. The room erupted with whispers. Pierce stepped forward. For the record, Vanessa Whitmore has a clear conflict of interest. She has been assisting Steele's company behind the scenes. Vanessa stuttered out. I was only... Steele shot her a look cold enough to freeze lava. Sit down. She sat. Hard. The chairwoman frowned. Ms. Whitmore, you should not even be in this room. Pierce turned the focus back to the document. May Delaney structured her inheritance in 3 layers. Caleb only saw the first. Lydia only touched the second. But this, he tapped the master transfer, is the third, the true ownership clause. The chairwoman lifted the document carefully, eyes scanning. Her eyebrows shot up. Mr. Steele, she said slowly, this document supersedes all current petitions. Steele's composure cracked. Just a fraction. Enough. That's impossible, he growled. May was old, confused. She didn't understand what she signed. Pierce fired back. She filed this years before Caleb married Grace. Before Steele even began his campaign for the Ridge. The board members whispered again. Finally, the truth was surfacing. Steele leaned forward, voice low and venomous. Grace, listen to me. You don't understand what you're doing. I lifted my chin. Funny. That's exactly what you said to my grandmother. His nostrils flared. The chairwoman raised her hand. Mr. Steele, let Ms. Whitmore speak. Steele clenched his jaw, but didn't interrupt. I took a deep breath. My husband forced me to sign away land he called worthless. His sister conspired with developers. His mother's ally, Lydia, betrayed May. They all tried to use me. I placed my hand on the master transfer. But May built this. For me, to protect the valley. To stop men like you. Ouch! The room went silent. Steele's voice dropped to a chilling whisper. Grace, you're making a mistake. Pierce stepped between us. No, you made the mistake when you underestimated her. The chairwoman stood. This committee hereby acknowledges the master transfer document as the controlling deed. Effective immediately. Steele shot to his feet. No. Security moved instantly. 2 guards blocked Steele's advance. The chairwoman continued firmly. The entire Delaney Ridge, including Mineral Rights and Development Authority, is awarded solely to Grace Whitmore. Gasps. Whispers. Shock. Vanessa slumped back in her chair, face pale. Caleb, standing near the door, muttered. Oh my God. Pierce placed a steady hand on my back. It's done, he whispered. Except, Steele leaned in, eyes burning with fury. This isn't over, Grace, he said softly. The Ridge is worth more than you can imagine, and people much bigger than me will want it. Chills ran down my arms. Ouch! If Steele wasn't the biggest threat, who was? Steele's warning echoed in my skull long after security forced him back into his seat. People much bigger than me will want it. That wasn't a threat. That was a promise from a man who never bluffed. Pierce leaned close. Don't react, he murmured. He wants to shake you before we finish the paperwork. Ouch! Too late. My blood already felt like ice water. The chairwoman continued with final formalities, but Steele's eyes stayed locked on me. Not angry. Not frantic. Calculating. Predatory. Like something inside him had shifted the moment he realized he'd lost. After the meeting adjourned, board members began filing out. Vanessa darted toward the exit without looking at me, her face blotchy and stiff with humiliation. Caleb lingered in the corner, hands shaking, lips moving like he was trying to form an excuse or a plea. I didn't give him the chance. Pierce placed a hand on my shoulder. Let's get you out of here. We stepped into the hallway, but as soon as we reached the lobby, my steps faltered. Steele wasn't following. He was waiting, leaning against the far wall, arms crossed, gaze laser-focused. He didn't look defeated. He looked activated. As we approached the door, he straightened. Grace, he said softly, a word. Pierce moved between us instantly. No. Steele didn't shift his gaze. Whitmore, he continued, you think you've won something. You haven't. You inherited a target. My stomach tightened. Ouch! Pierce snapped. Keep your distance, Steele. Steele chuckled, low, humorless. You think this ends in a boardroom? That woman is sitting on more than land, Harlan. And sooner or later, the people who really want it will show up. I swallowed hard. What do you mean? I forced out. Steele finally looked at me, fully, intensely. May Delaney wasn't just fighting me. She was fighting an entire consortium. Men with resources. Men with power. Men who don't bother with petitions and board hearings. His voice dropped to a chilling whisper. They don't ask for the ridge. They take it. My heart thudded painfully. Why? I whispered. Why is it worth so much to them? Steele smirked, but not with arrogance. With pity. You really think what May guarded was just a mineral pocket? He shook his head slowly. No, Grace. There's something under that ridge worth more than steel, gold, oil, or land. What? I whispered. He leaned in just enough for only me to hear. Something they'd kill for. A violent shiver ran up my spine. Before I could speak again, Steele stepped back, straightened his suit, and said, You should have stayed ignorant. Now you're in the game, and you don't even know the rules. Ouch! Pierce pulled me toward the exit. Grace, let's go. Now. As the glass doors closed behind us, Steele's final words echoed like thunder in my mind. You're not fighting me anymore. You're fighting the men May couldn't stop. I slid into Pierce's car, my hands trembling. Pierce, what did he mean? What could be under the ridge? Pierce didn't answer right away. Then he looked at me with an expression that twisted my stomach into knots. Grace, before May died, she told me one thing. I turned slowly toward him. What thing? He swallowed. She said, I found something beneath the valley and I buried it. Pierce's words hung in the car like smoke. I found something beneath the valley and I buried it. My heart slammed against my ribs. What did she bury? I whispered. Pierce gripped the steering wheel tighter. I don't know. May never told me. She only said, if the ridge passes to Grace, she'll know what to do. Ouch. No pressure, right? I stared out the window as the road twisted through the valley. The ridge rose in the distance, ancient, quiet, watching. We drove back to the cabin, parked behind the trees, and climbed the path up toward the highest point of the ridge. Wind rustled through pine branches. The sky glowed gold with late afternoon light. Pierce walked ahead quietly. May brought me up here once, he said. She told me this is where the valley speaks. I frowned. Speaks. He nodded. You'll see. We reached a flat stone ledge overlooking the entire valley. And then, Pierce handed me something from his coat pocket, a small metal tag. Weathered, old. Stamped with one word. Below, my pulse quickened. This was in May's lockbox, Pierce said. She wanted you to have it. I knelt down, brushing my hand across the stone. There, a faint circular carving. Intentional, precise. Like a marker? Pierce, I whispered. Is this the door? He exhaled. I think so. The carving had a small indentation, the exact size of the metal tag. I pressed it in. Click. The stone under us shifted, deeply, slowly, releasing a low rumble that vibrated through my bones. A hidden hatch slid open a few inches, revealing darkness below. Air rushed upward, cold, mineral sweet. My breath caught. What is down there? I whispered. Pierce shook his head. No idea. But if May hid it, it wasn't meant for Steele. Or Caleb. Or anyone else. I stared into the darkness, into the unknown May died protecting. Then I stood up straight. No, I said softly. Not today. The ridge is safe for now. I won the land. I survived the threats. I fought the war May knew was coming. Pierce nodded. You did. And what's beneath here? I said, stepping back, will stay buried until I choose otherwise. We sealed the hatch. The ridge grew quiet again. As we walked back down the trail, the wind carried May's lavender scent, faint, warm, peaceful. Maybe it was just memory. Or maybe it was something more. At the bottom of the ridge, I finally exhaled. I didn't lose anything, I whispered. I gained everything. Pierce smiled, and you're just getting started. I turned toward the camera in my mind, toward the women listening to my story. If you're still here, thank you for walking through this war with me. If my story made you feel stronger, if it reminded you of your own worth, hit subscribe to Never Too Late, Stories of Strength. And tell me in the comments, which moment shocked you the most? The chase, the betrayal, or May's hidden chamber? And what do you think May buried under the ridge? I'd love to read every single thought. Because this isn't just my story anymore. It's ours.